Hello and welcome to this video lesson on how to use my new pronunciation tool, and I've decided to call it the Pronunciation Improver. So pronunciation, it's such an important skill, and it's something that really all of us have issues with pronunciation when we learn a language, yeah? This isn't level dependent. Now, of course, learners at the A levels tend to have more pronunciation problems than learners at B and C levels. But it's certainly possible for someone to develop um, all their other language skills to a very high level, and yet somehow pronunciation, it gets left behind, it gets forgotten about. And this then causes lots of frustration, because if you know, oh, well, my grammar's really good and my vocabulary is really good, and yet I'm still having these problems with my speaking, um, it can make you feel kind of not so good about yourself. Um, so for me with pronunciation, when I was living in China, pronunciation is, I mean, it's important in all languages, but in Chinese, it is particularly important because Mandarin Chinese and Cantonese, they are tonal languages. And this means that you have exciting pairs of words like buy and sell, which in Chinese are my. So basically, the word is the same, but the intonation is different. And if you learn a tonal language and your own language is not tonal, trust me, it's awful. It's so, so difficult. Um, and it's very important because if you are in China and you get your intonation wrong, you might say another word. So it's really important. So when I was learning Chinese, I put a lot of time and effort into the pronunciation, a lot. And I really, really practiced. And I practiced tongue twisters and I had lessons and I spent ages trying to understand where to put my tongue and what shape my mouth should be. And it really was difficult. Um, but after maybe a couple of years of practice, actually my Chinese pronunciation, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And I had experiences in China of getting into the back of a taxi in the dark, maybe it was nighttime, and telling the driver where to go, and the driver didn't realize that it wasn't a Chinese person in the car. So the reason I'm telling you this is because Chinese pronunciation is very, very, very difficult. And if I can get my Chinese pronunciation to that level, I am 100% sure that you can get your English to at least being clear and understandable for your listener. So I'm going to share my screen with you now, and I'm going to talk you through my new pronunciation tool. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I've given you a kind of summary of the instructions. If you're watching this video, you probably got this tool in my Successful Studying newsletter. The full instructions are there. Okay, this is just a little summary. So the one area of pronunciation, this is really, really important. Please don't try and listen to all of your pronunciation all at once, okay? If you don't choose one area to focus on, number one, you might quite possibly get completely overwhelmed by the differences between your speaking and the native speaker. And this can lead to things like, oh my God, my pronunciation is just so bad, I'm just going to give up. And this is not what we want. Okay, so you've got to prevent this feeling of overwhelm. And the other reason to choose one area is because it is so much easier to notice changes, right? If you try and look at everything, how can you possibly measure what everything is doing. You can't. But if you choose one specific area, it's much easier for you to notice, is it better? Has it changed? What's happening? So one area, please. A short extract of speaking. So absolutely no more than 1 minute. And in fact, I would probably recommend about 30 seconds. It's enough. Okay. If you're super proficient and you want to really push yourself, fine, go for it, but keep this short. And I'm just going to pause this and plug in my computer. And the other thing to bear in mind is that you do want something where there is a written version, or at least that will make your life easier. Again, if you are C1, C2, and you think, I don't need a written version, fine, don't bother. But for most of us, I think having a written text, it kind of helps because we're not also trying to remember what did the native speaker say next. Oh, I can't remember. So the written version is going to help you notice features in pronunciation, and it will make your life a little bit easier. And then you basically you're recording yourself and comparing yourself to the native speaker. Now you can either record yourself first and then compare, or you can listen to the native speaker first and then record yourself and compare. Doesn't really matter, to be honest. You can try it both ways and see which you prefer, but essentially it's the same. Whichever one you decide to do, you do want to repeat this exercise. Okay, so I've done this myself today. So these are my notes about my pronunciation. So this is today's date. I decided that I was going to look at tones. Remember, I said that Mandarin is a tonal language. It's still difficult for me. So I decided to go and check my tones and see if they were accurate or not. And I decided to use the first paragraph from a graded reader. So this means that I've got something to read, but I've also got an MP3 recording of a Chinese person reading this. And I did this. I think I did this version for this version. I did it 3 times. So the first thing that I noticed was, oh my God, the native speaker is so much smoother than me. And then I did it again, and I was closer to the native speaker. And then I did it again, and I realized I had some problems with chunking, which is how we break our speech into units. And I struggle with this in Chinese. And then this last column is really important. Okay, pronunciation. I think most of us as language learners at some point have had the experience of a native speaker looking at us and saying, I don't understand, sorry. And it's a horrible feeling because we think, well, I said the right word, pretty sure my grammar was okay. Oh, it must be my pronunciation. Oh, God. And so pronunciation, it can really make us feel quite uncomfortable about our speaking. So because of this, I really, really want you to choose one thing that you are happy with by the end of this. And this is not about being perfect. Okay, it's not that, oh yes, now I sound exactly like an English person or an American person. That's not the point. But the point is to find one thing that you have done that you can feel proud of or happy with. So for me, I noticed that compared to the first time, my third recording was much, much smoother. And it was actually faster as well. I think about 5 seconds faster, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the whole thing was only 30 seconds. So short text. And it also sounded much more natural. So for me, this is a really good way to start to observe your own speaking which is really important for improving pronunciation, and to notice the gap between where you are and a native speaker. And again, just to be really clear, it's not about sounding like a native speaker. It's just about making step by step improvements in your pronunciation in whatever way you feel works best for you. So at the moment, this video lesson is only available to those who have received the newsletter. If you have therefore any questions, any comments, please do get in touch. Some of you have my email address. You can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, or you can leave a comment under this video. Go practice some pronunciation, and most importantly, have fun.